The hype train has begun for Jack Daniel's 2 new releases, so let's see how good they really are. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So that is right, today we are taking a look at Jack Daniel's 2 new releases, the Bottled in Bond and the Triple Mash. Both of these were released in May of 2022, so just about a month ago, and since then, a heck of a lot of people have been saying a lot of great things. There's some really good stats on these bottles, a lot to look forward to, and they should be hitting stores nationwide pretty soon here. Right now, they're still a bit hard to find, and everybody's going after them. So I went out and was able to get myself a bottle of each to review for you guys to let you know if I think it's worth it to go out and try to get these bottles. Now, what are we looking at here? So for the Bottled in Bond, first of all, MSRP on both of these is great. So Bottled in Bond is right around 30 bucks and the Triple Mash is right around 33 bucks MSRP. For the Bottled in Bond, it's just their standard Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey. It is 80% corn, 12% malted barley, and 8% rye, so pretty low rye, corn forward. And Bottled in Bond, of course, means that it is at least 4 years old, all distilled during the same single distilling season. Pivoting over to the Triple Mash, now obviously this one is a little bit more complicated given that it's a blend of 3 whiskeys. The first being the Jack Daniel's Rye, Tennessee Rye, which is 60% of this blend. Then there is 20% of the Jack Daniel's Tennessee Whiskey, and then 20% of their American malt whiskey, which is 100% malted barley. The Triple Mash is also Bottled in Bond, so aged for at least 4 years, distilled in the same season. And for me, this is gonna be kind of a first. I don't think I've ever really had anything that is a blend of 3 different mash bills in one bottle. Quick note about both of these bottles is that they come in 700 milliliter bottles, so 50 milliliters less than the standard 750. I believe that's for like international reasons. This is a more standard international bottle. So they're just releasing it here in the States as what it's gonna be everywhere in the world. So I am super excited to dig into both of these and review them for you guys. We're gonna start with the Bottled in Bond, move over to the Triple Mash, probably go in the reverse order then, just so that we're doing our due diligence on both of these, but let's dive in. Before we do that, do just wanna say that if you're liking the video, if you've had a chance to try either of these and like them a lot, smash that like button. Put in the comments below what your experience with Jack Daniel's has been like. Are you excited to get these bottles? Have you gotten them yet? And last but not least, hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Really helps the channel grow, but also helps me know what specific kind of content to keep creating for you guys. All right, enough of all of that. Let's get into the whiskey itself. So Jack Daniel's new release, the Bottled in Bond version. What do we get on the nose? Sweet, sweet, sweet nose. Like a perfectly ripe banana. That's the first thing I get. Lots of banana here. Almost like a vanilla, banana, brown sugar experience, which I get a lot with Jack Daniel's. The banana is so sweet with that vanilla underneath it. It's a lot like a banana Laffy Taffy or something like that. There is a little bit of an ethanol kick. Oh, I got a little bit of an oaky woodiness there. So showing some signs of age, which is nice. And then a little bit of a spice, not too much spice, but a little bit of a baking spice there. Maybe a touch of chocolate too, like a bitter dark chocolate, not so much like a sweet milk chocolate, but a bitter dark chocolate with that more bitter oak kind of note coming through. But the prominent part of the nose is certainly that banana, vanilla, brown sugar sweetness. Okay, so that's a pretty nice nose there. Let's get into the palate and see how that holds up. Cheers, everybody. Wow, okay. That is quite good, not going to lie to you. That fits a lot of the hype I've been hearing about these bottles. There is such a good amount of brown sugar, oak, vanilla, little bit of that banana, not as prominent on the palate as it was on the nose, but a touch of that banana fruity sweetness coming through, but that brown sugar, oak, and a really good amount of like cinnamon spice coming through. Really good on the palate. Just really good traditional bourbon with a little bit of that like banana kick that makes it a Jack Daniel's kind of special. All right, let us go over to the triple mash now and do our first sip of that and evaluate the nose. So triple mash on the nose. Excited for this. Okay, it's sweet as well, but a whole new kind of sweetness. Much more dark cherry, sort of a plum kind of sweetness, this darker fruit, pitted fruit. Lots of good vanilla too. Decent amount of ethanol and a little bit of spice as well. There's these more wintry spice notes coming through, and I'm sure that's a lot to do with this being 60% the rye. Like there's this warm winter spice note underneath it all, and then the sweetness is this like dark cherry, plum, vanilla sweetness. I'm not sure which nose I like better, but they're both really, really nice. Let's get into the palate on this triple mash. Excited to see what kind of complexities we get here. Cheers, everybody. Okay, so they are more similar on the palate than they were on the nose for sure. There's still a lot of good brown sugar. That baking spice, a winter spice comes through here, especially on the back end for this, probably coming from the rye. The sweetness there is a little bit more like a red cherry. It might go a little brighter on the palate, so a little bit more of like a bright red cherry than a dark red cherry on the palate. Good vanilla sweetness. I would say that this one is a little bit more tame and easy to sip on than the Bottled and Bond. The Bottled and Bond is more of like a rich base tones, darker experience with some good oakiness. This one has a little bit more of like a delicate fruit sweetness going on that is underlined by some vanilla, but I get less of the like oak, more still brown sugar, but less of that like oak heftiness. Certainly a really nice pour. I will say that the finish on this one is still kind of lingering with a good vanilla sweetness that I really appreciate about that one. And that sweetness just sort of carries all the way through. I think the Bottled and Bond might be a little bit more challenging for beginner bourbon drinkers, whereas the triple mash is just sort of a very inviting, pleasant experience overall. Okay, well, I've had a bit of water now, let my palate reset a bit. We're gonna go back to the triple mash, then over to the Bottled and Bond and see if that changes anything. Starting with the triple mash. So going back to the nose on the triple mash, let's see what we get. Yep, good brown sugar and that, I don't know how to describe it other than like a warm winter spice. I don't know if it's like, it's not like pine cones, but it is that cinnamon baking spice, maybe a little bit leaning toward or suggesting a spearmint wintergreen kind of thing, but not fully going there because I think it's balanced out by other elements. But that plum, got a little bit, maybe a little bit of that dark chocolate that I also got on the Bottled and Bond came out here a little bit. But yeah, good spiciness, good brown sugars, good dark cherry, plum, richer dark fruits coming through. And good vanilla. All right, cheers. Okay, so there, a little bit of oakiness came forward on this pour. So I didn't detect that much oak on the first sip. Got a little bit more of that at the center of this now, but still remains a lot the same. There's good brown sugar. There is that good cherry forward presence, good vanilla. It's not super dark, but it has elements that suggest like a darker oak or a darker caramel even. But it's also got this delicate fruit vanilla side that I really appreciate. I think it's a well-balanced triple mash experience for having put 3 different mash bills in there that are all very different. So rye forward, a super corn forward, and an American malt. Like, it blends really well together. As it lingers on my tongue, I want to add one more note there, which is honey. I think that American malt On the finish, it's like a honey vanilla finish for me. It takes a little while, but the honey kind of blooms up, and I think the maltiness of that American malt comes forward for the finish. And I've had some scotches that have a similar thing, and a scotch isn't my favorite thing, but to have the richer bourbon experience and rye forward experience and then transition to a nice sweet honey on the finish, I mean, that is really nice. All right, now let's go back over to the bottled in bond and see if anything has developed or changed here coming off of the triple mash. So on the nose, man, that banana Laffy Taffy kind of sweetness, so good. Really definitely an inviting presence for me. I love this banana, vanilla, chocolate experience that Jack Daniel's often gives me. Yeah, again, good spicy barrel spice, woodiness coming through. It's like simultaneously sweet and dark. I think the triple mash is also sweet and dark. It's like dark fruits and sweet vanillas. This is like, the bottled in bond is like dark oak, caramel, brown sugar, and then sweet fruit like banana and vanilla. So let's get into the palate here, see if we get some more flavors. Cheers. Okay, so just to try to track that progression a little bit, the front palate is very sweet for the bottled in bond. So much of that banana and vanilla are coming through, just sort of like a vanilla ice cream drizzled or melted over a banana. That's what I get on the front palate. Mid palate goes a little bit spicier, more like barrel spice and oak and some brown sugar. And then the finish that lingers is more of that spiciness, oakiness, barrel char kind of experience. So it goes darker by the end, starts really light and sweet and transitions to a darker experience. That's juxtaposed with the triple mash, which I think is sweeter throughout, and the finish really shines with that honey and vanilla. I guess the way I would break it down is that like the front and mid palate of bonded might be more of what I would typically go for in a hefty bourbon, and the finish here on the triple mash is just so inviting, makes me want to take another sip. So really impressed with that. Okay, so overall, what are my thoughts on the Jack Daniel's bonded triple mash? Is one better than the other? Should you go get both? I would say they both hit on all cylinders and accomplish very different things. They're just such different and good experiences overall. I think the hype is real, especially for $30 and $33. These are worth putting on your shelves. I don't think that they are the most fantastic whiskeys ever, but they are both contenders for right around that $30 range, being some of the best in that entire category. So as you can tell, I'm impressed by Jack Daniel's 2 new releases. I mean, good on them for putting out 2 really solid whiskeys, very affordable at price range, and hopefully going to be widely available in the near future. Like I said earlier, put in the comments below what your experience has been with these 2 new releases from Jack Daniel's, if you've been able to get your hands on them. Comment below if you're still currently looking. I definitely think they are worth keeping an eye out for. I wouldn't go traveling all over the place just to try to find them right now. I do think that they're going to be coming into more and more states, but they are certainly gonna be new staples for me on the shelves of the hutch. So definitely both hutch worthy, and for 30 bucks, right around 30 bucks, they are both certainly worth the buy. And I think one extra note to add here is that other than the old number 7, which is so many people's first experience with Jack Daniel's, everything they do is so good. So don't be overlooking them if you think that the old number 7 isn't your jam and other products of theirs are going to be like that. Anyway, that about wraps up everything here on Jack Daniel's Bonded and Triple Mash. Until I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.